Over the course of the 5+ years that Coffee Breaks with Steve has been on the air, we've had more than 80 individuals join us as guests on this show. And it's fun every now and then to keep up with what they're doing, find out what they're doing. And today you're going to hear from just a few of them giving us some updates on their projects and plans and goals and the fun things that they've been up to and are going to be up to since the last time they were on the show. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. I'm Steve Glavin, and this is the show where we come together around our virtual coffee table each week and join the conversation to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. If you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. All right, listen, it is, if you're tuning in live, Saturday, December 7th, 2024. And if you are tuning in later on, it's whatever date and time that you're tuning in, but we want to welcome you anyway. And we just invite you to make sure that you do say hello in the chat and make comments when we get into our topic today so that we know that you are here. And I'm just looking to see, I know that we've got some people tuned in. I don't know that they've necessarily said hello yet, but I know they're going to join us. So I want to have time to get to all of our guest updates. We've got several today. So I do want to share some sweet and savory with you before we get there and get to the right spot. Oh, look, there it is. Sweet and savory. Or as Shalane would say, the charcuterie. I always want to acknowledge that because that's her thing. By the way, how's everybody doing? How's the weather where you're at? We're getting into winter now, and so I know that there are weather systems. You know, the thing is, there weather. People say we're having weather. We have weather all the time. Just depends on it. Just depends on what season it is and what's going on. Hey, Carla, good to see you. And yeah, I'm just going to get into this because I'm just blabbering. Hey, most of you, if not all of you, know our friend Jenny Conley. She's been on the show a couple of times. We talked about the play that she wrote that I had an opportunity to be involved in. And, you know, just a few weeks ago, we celebrated our 250th episode on Coffee Breaks with Steve with a very special episode. And a week or two ago, I got unannounced, I got a package in the mail from Jenny, and it was this mug that I'm using today. And I'm going to share it with you just a little bit and show you this mug that she sent me that said I get the glare off of it. But it says 5 years, 250 episodes, worldwide guests, great conversations, lots of coffee. And then on the other side, it says Coffee Breaks with Steve, and it has a beautiful picture of my mug on the mug. So thank you, Jenny. Let's get us to our next story. I couldn't remember if I had another slide for Jenny. I want to tell you this story that popped up on my feed this last week. It's about a woman who lives in the country of Georgia in Eastern Europe. She just recently, or just within the last few years, accidentally found out that she was adopted. She never knew it. And in 2016, her name is Tamuna Musra. Okay, I'm not going to say it right. Musarije. It's a Georgian name, so I may still be mispronouncing it. But she was going through personal effects of her mother, the woman she thought was her mother, who had passed away. And among them, she found a birth certificate with her name on it, but the wrong date. And she herself is a journalist. And so she began to wonder if she was adopted or she was the victim of child trafficking ring in her home country or what. Well, after doing some research, she set up a Facebook page that was designed specifically to let the world know that she was searching for information. And over time, eventually, someone in rural Georgia messaged her on her Facebook page saying that she knew a woman who had concealed a pregnancy and traveled to the capital of Tbilisi in September 1984, which was the month of Tamuna's birth. So there was a name included in the message, but it wasn't someone who was on social media. Tamuna posted as far as she could on her social media, asking if anybody might know this woman, to understand the name of this woman. And it turned out somebody did, and they reached back out to her and said that if she would agree to take the post down that included the name for privacy's sake, that this woman said she was related to the woman whose name was there. She would take a DNA test in sync with Tamuna. Well, as it turned out, the name that was on there was an aunt of this person who had contacted her, and the DNA test confirmed that the two women were cousins. And because of that, Tamuna actually found the name of her biological father. Well, here's the thing. The man who is her biological father lived in a rural village. Hang on. Thank you. A rural village in Western Georgia. He had been following Tamuna's journalism work for several years, and the two of them had actually been friends on Facebook for 3 years, not related to her search. Well, he hadn't even known back in 1984 that this woman who turned out to be Tamuna's mother was pregnant. So the two of them, she and her father, Gergen Krava, got together eventually, met in person, and it's turned out to be a great relationship. And he even went so far as to put together a big family gathering. And through that, Tamuna had an opportunity to meet her her half sister Rusiko and her cousin Manoni, who are with her. That's Tamuna on the left as you're looking at this, and her sister, half sister Rusiko in the middle, and her cousin Manoni, who she was introduced to by her biological father. I thought this was just interesting, considering how many people in this day and age look for their biological family using Ancestry.com, using DNA and a variety of other things. And to find out as well, just the irony that they had been friends, she and her biological father had been friends on Facebook because he enjoyed her journalism and the news information, the journalistic posts that she had put up. And they'd known each other through Facebook and then found out that they were father-daughter. I thought that was just an interesting story, encouraging, uplifting in its own way. I want to share some, we weren't on air last week. We took the weekend off over Thanksgiving weekend. And so there were a couple of events that happened, anniversaries and birthdays, that would have been mentioned last Saturday. And they were not, because we weren't here to mention them. So I wanted to acknowledge those. First of all, John and Kirsten Harris celebrating their, I think, and I don't know, is Kathy, are you on here? Is looking for someone who, and I know people who join the chat, I've been looking at other things. Hi, Rick. I believe this is John and Kirsten's 23rd wedding anniversary. Somebody can correct me if they see this live or later on, but happy anniversary to John and Kirsten. And then also we had a birthday last week of one of our favorite followers and participants around the coffee table here, and that was Jerry Thompson on December 4th, celebrating a birthday. Now you wonder at this picture of Jerry, a couple of reasons for this. Number one is, and first and foremost, is Jerry doesn't, this is what Jerry has as her profile picture. Jerry is frequently on Coffee Breaks. I don't know if she's here yet today, but this is, I think Jerry prefers to have her pictures from the past on here, but this is also the Jerry that I knew going all the way back to elementary school. We were in school together back before she was Jerry Thompson. And this is the picture. This picture represents what I think of when I think of Jerry anyway, although I'm sure she is still beautiful. But anyway, happy belated birthday, Jerry. And then we've got one birthday coming up this next week, and that's Sean Cullen Carroll, who's another friend who's joined us on the show in the past and celebrating a birthday on December 11th. I happen to know that Sean has been taking some time this weekend to begin celebrating with his wife as they went into the city, into Manhattan, and went to the Radio City Spectacular to see the Rockettes for the first time in many years. So good start to the birthday week for Sean, and a happy birthday as well. Hey, do you have a special day this week? Or maybe it was last week and we haven't mentioned it, and you want to make sure that we do. Please put that in the chat so that we can celebrate and acknowledge with you. And the same is kind of true if you have one coming up, maybe later in December or sometime in the early part of next year, and you want to make sure we get it on our calendar so that we can acknowledge and celebrate with you. You can send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. We'll make sure that we get that, put that on our calendar so that we can properly celebrate when the time comes. All right, listen, I want to get to our topic today because this is a fun one. We do this about once a year or so. Actually, we've only done this one other time. That was last year. It was actually a year and a half ago that we did this. But Carly, you're right. Every day is a special day. I think we should acknowledge every day. That actually is good advice. That's a good mantra. Every day is a special day. I like that. I want to tell you a little bit about just the idea of catching up with guests. Many of our guests have a variety of things going on in their lives. I mean, it depends on what they do for a living. It depends on where they're coming from. And really, just as Carla said, kind of like every day is a special day. Every guest is special. Everything that they're doing is special. So about once a year, we reach out to, again, we've had over 80 guests. Reach out to the majority of them. There are a few that have just recently been on or we've caught up with in different ways. Reach out to any of those that may have something going on they'd like to share. And we don't necessarily hear back from everybody, or in some cases we hear back and they just say, not a whole lot going on right now, but we'll keep you posted. But we reached out and heard back from 13 of our former guests. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about it, it's interesting to hear what they have to say. So we're going to share today some of the updates from some of our guests who've been on here over the last few years. And again, we say 5.5 years. The reality is that when Coffee Breaks with Steve began 5.5 years ago, it wasn't a guest-oriented show. It wasn't guest-centric, as we often say, guest-centric. It was just me. I would come on, I would chat or ramble, as the case may be, for 30 minutes, and that was the show. And over time, we did a couple of things. Number one, we started making guest appearances a more regular part of the show, now almost exclusively. Every now and then we'll do a show without a guest, but it's almost exclusively now with a guest or guests on the show. And the other thing that we did is we expanded from 30 minutes to 45 minutes to provide sufficient time, hopefully, in most cases, for our guests to share their stories. In a handful of cases, we've had to do more than one episode for a guest to be able to share the full spectrum of what they're doing. And that's part of the reason that it's always cool to catch up as well. So we're going to share just a few today. And I want to start with a friend of the show, Izzy Stein. Izzy is a performer who lives and works in New York. She was on the show originally in February of 2023. So it's been coming up on 2 years since Izzy joined us, but she's been doing a variety of things since she was on the show. She is still performing and doing gigs all around New York. And this is her current schedule for the month of December. She's going to be at several places. If you go on her website, which we are going to share here on in the chat, and you can also, if you just do a search for Izzy Stein, you're going to find her stuff. If you look on Facebook, she uses her full name, Isabel Stein, which is Isabel. It's not with the Z's in her full name. But you can also find some of her updates and information. And just want to encourage you, you can also go on YouTube and find her. And you can find some of her music videos, performances, and other things. And she has been working on an album, a recording company in... why is my mind blank on the big music recording capital in the world? My mind just went blank because I haven't had enough coffee today. So somebody else can. Nashville, Tennessee. And I believe she's working on an album. But the other thing is that we've already been in discussion, and Izzy is looking at coming back to share more specific updates about her projects in February of this next year. So watch for that to take place in the next year. And the next one that I want to share with you, sorry, I'm having to kind of track several things at once here on the computer. Whitney and Brandon Kaywood, you may recall when Whitney and Brandon were on to talk about their documentary that they've been working on for the last several years, To Die For, the documentary, which is about some of the issues with dyes in our food and even medicine, particularly not only that affect children, but can affect a number of adults situations as well. It can be sensitivities. Some people don't have a major sensitivity, but many people do, and particularly children. And it's an area that has been known, but not necessarily studied that effectively. And just wanted to update and let you know that To Die For, Brandon and Whitney have actually signed 2 different distribution deals for distribution on different media, one with Virgil Pictures and one with Journeyman Pictures within the last few months. They also introduced the documentary at the Rome International Film Festival, and just wanted to as well share with you the trailer that they recently released for the documentary. So here that is.
We don't want to make this documentary. We have to.
So for a long time, I was really apprehensive about sharing our story. I really felt like our story was kind of hard to believe.
It's just like it's not part of the conversation.
If synthetic dyes are having a small but real effect on the population, which the data seems to suggest they do, that is going to generally lead to a slight increase in attention problems and hyperactivity problems in children. The more of these you have, the more you slightly move the population into a direction where more people are actually having clinical problems.
Any
change you want to make. Oh no, too costly. Oh, the science is bad. Those scientists are crazy.
They know it causes cancer, and they still use it today.
People are spending thousands of dollars on prescriptions or medical bills. A lot of that could be fixed with the knowledge about our food.
My kid is having a hard time, but it's not that he had a bad day. He's kind of having a bad life.
We see it time and time again from all the studies. Artificial food dyes have a very negative effect on children's behavior.
There's enough science now to show that these shouldn't be in any products ingested by humans at all.
To look at a 7-year-old who just wants to die. If he continues like this, he won't make it to his teenage years.
The unavoidable fact that they're in so much of our food supply is one thing, but the dirty little secret of what these chemicals are doing to our body is another.
Why would you not let a parent know that to try to avoid these foods? Or industry, take those additives out of the food and nobody has to avoid anything.
It's like those night thoughts that normally you just brush off and you don't think about. When you're on dyes, they get loud. They get to be like, hey, are you sure you want to be alive right now? And it gets really hard to not listen.
It's a small change on average for the population, but it's one that has some long-term consequences.
It's just so crazy how something you don't know about has such a huge effect on behavior. Like all these kids who get labeled as behavior kids, what if it was just dye?
Pretty compelling, right? We're putting, you can see on here a couple of links for To Die For, and we're actually putting them in the chat as well, with both the Facebook page for To Die For the documentary and the website for To Die For the documentary. So you can look those up at your convenience and check out what's going on. I don't know if, I know at one point there were also advertising on their sites that they were still raising money for production and distribution. I don't know if that's still the case, quite frankly, for the K-Woods, but you can certainly find out more about them and check that out. All right, next update. Leanne Joshua. This was someone, again, we often make the case and put out the request that to our coffee table members to let us know ideas or make introductions to people who may be guests. This was one that Rick Venturi was responsible for. Rick has known Leanne from some of their work together from past experience. He made the recommendation and made the introduction so that we could reach out to Leanne. Leanne is a comic. She is an advocate for humor in the workplace. She's a guest speaker. She does seminars. She does a variety of things, or has done a variety of things in the past. And we asked her for an update, and she sent us this juicy tidbit. She said, not much to report except to say I'm convinced now more than ever that people need to be surrounded by community and laughter in order to survive. She says, I'm working on a short play and a young adult novel about bullying. So those sound like great projects. Meanwhile, I continue to take pictures of the beauty of nature and share them with my friends, especially those who can no longer get out and visit Mother Earth. You know, we talk about humor, but you see just a lot of sensitivity on the part of Leanne in her mission in life. I don't know if she's continuing to frequently update her website, theaccidentalcomic.com, but we're putting that link in the chat as well so that you can check that out at your leisure should you want to. Next person that we asked for an update from, you remember our friend Sid Niemeyer, who is an author, actually worked for his entire career, most of his career, as a physicist with the Lawrence Livermore Labs. And he wrote a novel that released earlier this year called Atomic Peril. It's a fictional novel, but it's based on his understanding of physics, and it's sort of an intrigue novel about the possibility of forensics getting out of control. It's a nuclear forensics thriller, and here you even see, as the book has gone out into distribution, etc., But we also got a little video update from Sid. So here's what Sid has to say about what's been going on and what he's working on.
Hello, my name is Sidney Niemeyer, author of Atomic Peril. And thanks to Steve Glavin, he featured that last August. And since then, it came out on Amazon in October. Paperback and Kindle available there. And an audiobook came out in February as well. Since then, I've been working hard on a second book, a nuclear forensics thriller, but it has a very different plot. Some of the same major characters, but especially the main character is now sited in Washington, D.C. It also features a very different kind of case, so it'll be quite different than the first book. I hope to have it come out by fall of 2025. And I've been doing some speaking events, not too much. Been focusing on writing that second book. But this next year, I hope to do more. And if you might be interested in hosting me, just let me or Steve know. And thanks, Steve, for reminding people about the things that you've hosted in the past.
Isn't that great? I love the fact that Sid is continuing with his authoring now that he's got the one book out. And, you know, the first one they say is the difficult one because you have to learn so much about the process and the system that gets that out there. But you can go on Amazon.com. You can find the printed version. You can also find the audiobook out there that Sid talked about. We have put his website, SidneyNiemeyer.com, in the chat. The next guest that I want to share with you is Eve Schaub. Eve Schaub is another author. And you may remember she's the one who wrote the book, The Year with No Garbage. Where she and her family went through an entire year where they didn't create any waste. And she shared with us a big update. She said, thanks so much for the chance to give. By the way, Eve was last on the show in May of 2023. It amazed me even to look back and see how many of the people that we got updates from were from 2023, because it just seems like they were just with us yesterday. Part of it is I've continued to follow them, but I want to make sure you are too. Eve says, thanks so much for the chance to give an update. Since we talked on Coffee Breaks, I've been busy talking to audiences both in person and on Zoom about my book, Year of No Garbage, Our Family's Year of Not Throwing Anything Away, and all that I learned about the harmfulness of plastic. Since we spoke, so many more studies have come out, and each one is more alarming than the last. Microplastics are being found in every part of the human body. Scientists look for them, including, most recently, breast milk, bone marrow, men's testes, and human brain tissue. Microplastics in the body have been directly linked to heart attack, stroke, and early death. And there is now evidence that the brains of people who died from Alzheimer's contained up to 10 times the amount of plastics as healthy samples. All this supports the message that we need to make and use less plastic in our daily lives, especially single-use plastics, which comprise 40% of our annual plastic production and are often only used for a few minutes before being thrown away. Since we spoke, I'm delighted to tell you that my book, Year of No Garbage, has been featured in The New Yorker, on the Weather Channel, and on NPR. A big Year of No Garbage moment came on Earth Day of this year when the Washington Post published my op-ed, Don't Waste Your Time Recycling Plastic, in which I explained why I felt we could best celebrate Earth Day by acknowledging that plastic is not recyclable, and then working to make less of it. I'm putting Eve's website in the chat here so that you can find her information, find out more about her book, which is also available on Amazon and other sites. The Year of No Garbage. That's not the only book she's written, and that's not all of her story. If you go back and find our conversation with Eve from May of 2023 on YouTube, you can hear more about her story as well. All right, the next guest that we're going to hear from is Jonathan Siegel. You may recall Jonathan is a musician, songwriter, arranger, performer who wrote a musical over the last few years, a family-oriented musical called Space Vacation, the Musical. And when he was on the show, which was back in February of 2023 already, he was sharing about, he had completed the musical, he had the website up, he talked about how the production had gone, and he was looking for producers and distributors for it. So we are now going to hear a little bit of an update directly from Jonathan.
Greetings, people of Earth. I'm Jonathan Siegel, creator of the podcast Space Vacation the Musical. When my kids were little and visiting Disney World just wasn't an option, I decided to invent a fun and exciting vacation that anybody could take. And so began Space Vacation, the story of a little blue boy named Haon who lives on the bright yellow planet. His family rents a beat-up rocket van that seats 4, and they take an incredible summer trip all over the universe. Haon's mom and dad expect beaches, mountains, and nice little inns, but Haon and his little sister Elo know that adventure awaits. Haon gets kidnapped by giant rats. The family almost gets danced to death when they take a wrong turn in outer space, but don't worry, they still go shopping on a shopping planet. I first wrote the songs and theatrical script with Broadway in mind. As the show evolved, I realized that it would also make an amazing movie. Along the way, I wrote a middle grade novel version and then produced an elaborate album of the 22 songs right here in my little backroom studio. I played all the digital musical instruments on the track, and then another studio brought a wonderful actress to sing the songs. Now I've taken the novel and the album and created a podcast series of the show. There's a lot of humor and a lot of action. Besides the songs, I get to do some funny voices. Above all, this show's about family. It's an audio podcast where the universe will explode inside your mind. It's perfect for walking down the street with your headphones, driving in your car, if you're all alone in your flying saucer, at the beach, at the gym, or entrancing your kids anywhere. So please take a listen to the podcast series. It's a family show, so if you're a kid, or maybe you're a person who was formerly a kid, this show's for you. Please share and subscribe. Space Vacation's looking for the smartest producer in the universe to put it on the stage and screen. Thanks for listening and enjoy the podcast series Space Vacation the Musical. And remember, universe starts with you.
It might help if Jonathan was a little more energized about this. Isn't that great? I love to hear Jonathan talk about it and with all the voices and with all of his energy. But we have put the link in the chat, and you can find it. You can find all of the music there. You can listen to the whole thing. As has already been mentioned, it's great music. It's a great story. It's so much fun. And I really do hope that as the word gets out even more, that the right producer for this will show up. The next update I want to share. Do you remember Jason and Sherilyn Boris? They were actually on just a few months ago, actually in 2024, which is nice that we heard from some people from earlier this year too, although I like to hear from everybody. But they are music teachers in the same school district in California. And they were talking about their approach to music, et cetera. And what the update that we wanted to share was that Sherilyn was just recently named as the Outstanding Elementary Music Educator by the California Music Educators Association, the Bay Area section. That's a big honor, and it just points out once again, and really, I mean, you could almost take both Sherilyn and Jason and say as a couple, they are outstanding. But we just wanted to congratulate Sherilyn on that award, and just what that means in terms of highlighting her amazing ability and skill as a music educator. The next update, Cindy Kosmala, if you recall, Cindy is the owner and the baker at, again, someone who was just on the show recently, September. And Cindy runs a patisserie in Burford, England called Hugo Lovage Patisserie. And we reached out to Cindy and asked for an update. And basically, she said that just the main thing is that they are fully revved up for the holidays, going full steam, and really didn't have time for a major update other than say we're very busy right now. But I did want to share a brief video that Cindy sent us after she received a little gift that we sent to thank her for being on the show.
Hello! Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. I love the mug. What a surprise. That was really unnecessary. Thank you very much and have a good one. You really surprised me this morning. I'm like, what is this box? I didn't order anything. Thank you. I will be rocking my mug. Hope all is good with you guys. Stay safe. And yes, all the best. Bye-bye.
Such an engaging personality. And the other thing that Cindy mentioned when we reached out and asked her for an update is that she's drinking out of her Coffee Breaks mug every day during her coffee break. So that's great to know as well. I'm glad she's enjoying it. Isaac Knox. Isaac is a stand-up comic and a freestyle rapper who does stuff all around the eastern part of the country. Really, he's based in New York, but he also has a variety of things coming up. This is his December schedule. Some of the dates have already passed, but we wanted to highlight the ones coming up here. You can see that he's going to be doing a variety of things in New York and then also in Florida the remainder of this month. And Isaac is just, he's a funny guy and extraordinarily creative. You can go on YouTube and you can find some of his stuff and just watch how he freestyle raps and even will do stuff. I mean, just improvised in some of his live appearances. He'll ask for a few words from the audience and then create on the spot, create a rap to that. And it's very, even if you're not into rap or hip hop, you've got to see this at some point. Speaking of which, Jim Caruso is a producer and the host of a show, a live open mic show at the famous Birdland Jazz Club in New York City in Manhattan called Jim Caruso's Cast Party. And Carol and I have had the opportunity to go see the Cast Party show a couple of times while we've been in New York. And Jim also sent us an update.
Steve, how are you? Thank you so much for asking. Everything's been buzzing on the Cast Party front. We're having a blast at Birdland every single Monday night here in New York City. But we've also been spreading the love in cities like Los Angeles and Las Vegas and recently Palm Springs, just having a blast. Then Billy Stritch, Clea Blackhurst, and I will be ready to jingle and slay with A Swinging Christmas. First in Boston on December 7th, then in Philadelphia on December 17th, and then we'll be back at Birdland for our 15th annual run of A Swinging Birdland Christmas, December 22nd through 25th. You can call the club, Birdland, or go to birdlandjazz.com for tickets. Billy and I are still crooning every Sunday night at Bemelman's at the Carlisle Hotel, and we'll be ringing in the new year there, which will be a blast. It's always like the most glamorous, chic party in town. I'm wishing you and all of your listeners a very happy holiday and Merry Christmas.
Another very engaging personality. It's always fun. If you are ever in New York, I do urge you. We did put the link to Cast Party in the chat as well, but just encourage you to go see this show. It's truly fascinating because you get people, anyone from very well-known names in show business who will show up at Jim's Cast Party and get up and do a song with the live band that is there, to people who are just getting up to basically find out if they can get up on a stage and sing. So it's very worthwhile to go. All right, listen, we're getting close to wrapping up here, just a handful more, but I want to share it. Jazz Ossery has been on the show now a few times. She was on back in July a couple of times to talk about her novels that she has written, and then was back with us just a few weeks ago as the guest host for our 250th episode. But she just sent this update to us. She says, I've just completed the sequel to the Obsidian Staff. If you were here, you know that the book that she wrote, the first novel in this series, she's been working on the sequels. There's going to be several of these. Part one of The First Conquest. So the sequel now itself is divided into two books. Part one of The First Conquest will be released in mid-December, right around the corner. In fact, it's just coming out this next week. And she says, if you want to hear updates, email me at, and she provides her, hang on, because I'm going to put this, make sure I get this in the chat, make sure I copied it, first of all. Yes, there we go. This is her website, but you can also email her at thelostlegacyseries@yahoo.com. And says, and mention you heard about the novels on Coffee Breaks with Steve. So we're also getting a look. This is now up online, but this is kind of a preview look at the front spine and back covers of the book that's being released this next week. It's not released yet, so you're getting a bit of a preview. And just the cover itself is intriguing. I have read the first book in the series, and I may say that Jazz is an amazing writer and communicator. If you were here for any of her appearances on the show, you know that it's not only interesting to read her books, but it is interesting to hear what she has to say, just verbally. And we're looking forward to hearing more from Jazz. Hopefully have her back on the show in the next year. Pamela Jean is a singer, songwriter, artist who was on the show. Again, we go back a little bit, just about a year ago. She was on in November of last year, November of 2023, and talked about some of her music, her journey. She's also an advocate for helping people get out of abusive relationships because of her own experience. And we have a little bit of an update from Pamela as to what she's doing. First, to jump over here, this is her schedule. I love the fact that she included in her December schedule for today that she was going to be on Coffee Breaks, that she was going to be sharing her update. And here is her update.
Hey everybody with Coffee Breaks with Steve, it's Pamela Jean here, and Miss Bella, she's up romping in the weeds up there. I'm out here at beautiful Lake Mead today in Nevada. That is my biggest music news. I finally got to snowbird for the entire winter to Las Vegas, where I have several shows on the books and some upcoming talk shows to be featured on as well. I'm hoping to film a music video for my original song that I wrote 20 years ago out here the first time I moved here, and it's called You Left Me Here in Vegas. So I'm hoping to put something fun together for that over the winter while I'm here. I'll be returning to Northern Washington at the end of April. My band will be kicking off for Bloomsday at the bottom of Doomsday Hill again for Bloomsday 2025, and I already have some solo shows on the books in North Idaho and Spokane area for the summer as well. So please follow me on all socials. Check out PamelaJeanUnlimited.com to get all the info and the music video updates. And signing off from sunny Nevada.
Somebody said she's really cute. She really is. And also just a very genuine person. So thank you, Pamela, and look forward to hearing more from her and about her. And we've also going to put her website here in the chat. And no, wrong one. That one's coming up in a minute. Did we already put it up there? Maybe not. I'm going to let's get Pamela's up here real quick. We jumped ahead. That was my fault. Here's Pamela Jean's website going into the chat now, and you can find out a lot about her music as well as the rock star jewelry that she makes, and the proceeds go toward supporting organizations that provide help for women who are getting out of abusive relationships. So it's another way to help support that cause. All right, our last guest update is with Lolly Wren, the fairy voice mother. You may remember she was on the show again. We go back a little over a year ago, October of 2023, but a British singer, songwriter, musician, and YouTube reactor who has amazing insight and an amazing voice herself. And that's one of the things is that Lolly has just released her first album called To Build a Sea with all original music on it, with Lolly as the performer. And you can find that. We're going to, once again, we already put her website in the chat, but we're going to put it up there again as well. And going to put a couple of other sites up here that you can find information about Lolly, because she also has a couple of YouTube channels. She has her own YouTube channel where you can see music videos, some of the music videos that go with her new album. And she also has the YouTube channel where she does the reaction videos to other artists. And those are like watching a master class in understanding music performance. For instance, it's not so much that it would be over the head of people who are not necessarily musicians themselves. And it's also just fun to watch some of her reactions because it is unfiltered when she reacts. But you can see there all three of those sites that we have just shared. And Yeah, just I just encourage you to follow Lolly and follow her journey, and you can find the music, her album, on sites such as Bandcamp, and I think on Spotify and others. But if you go to her website, all the links are there to do that. Listen, we're wrapping things up, and we're already coming close to the end of the time. I want to again thank our guests for being here, for sharing so much information on here from of what they're doing, and for the ones who weren't able to give us an update just because timing or something else, we appreciate all of you, and I just urge you to stay tuned as we get into the closing credits here, because we're going to actually, among other things, run the lists of every guest who has been on this show, all 87 guests. But I want to let you know very quickly what's coming up in the next few weeks. Next week, we're going to be featuring two really amazing people. They've both been on the show before individually, but Alexis Cara and Chrissy Whitehead, who are both very accomplished actors in their own right, dancers, singers on stage, Broadway, as well as Hollywood movies and television shows. And they do a lot of work together to help young up-and-coming artists, and even now have a nonprofit organization that's designed to provide opportunities, not necessarily to work toward professional acting careers, but to help people to use theater, to use performing arts as a way to help people tell their stories and work on mental wellness. So we're going to hear from both Alexis and Chrissy next week. And then we're going to be putting on the brakes for a couple of weeks after that. We're not going to be on the air on either Saturday, December 21st, or December 28th, as we celebrate the holiday season with family, with some travel and with family. We will be back in the new year on January 4th, and encourage you to join us then. Again, as we've already talked about, what are the topics? Who are the guests that you would like to see? Would you please let us know any ideas that you have, any people that you think, pardon me, the throat gets dry, that you think should be on the show. Think about some of these amazing guests who have already shared their updates, and so many that we still want to hear from. And so I just want to encourage you to be part of that conversation as well, and let us know. And then finally, just a reminder, we've been on the air now for over 5 years, coming up on 6 years next spring. 252 episodes, 121 of those with guests. 87 people have joined us as guests on the show, individual guests on this show. And then finally, if you're not already a subscriber to our YouTube channel, would you please go there and subscribe? And if you are already a subscriber, would you go there, copy the link, and send it out to your friends and let them know what an amazing show Coffee Breaks with Steve is, and mostly because of our amazing, amazing guests. All right, listen. Just want to say thank you to all of you again for being here, for being part of the conversation. Just glancing, and thank you for those of you who joined. And similarly to the way that we talk about all of our guests, you are amazing as well for being here, for supporting what we do. And I just want to encourage you in this time, you know, as people like Leah and Joshua were saying, things like humor are so important in this day and age. So many things that we face. But we all have the opportunities. We all have, one way or another, ways to advocate and to get involved in the things that are important to us. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.